Bob, why don't you share with us what happened last week in the state legislature and regarding a rewrite of our state constitution. People that know that Bob and I are very much opposed to a constitutional convention to deal with our federal constitution, but our state constitution is very laborious. It's very long. We even in our Constitution determined what the flashpoint of kerosene would be.
Yes.
When we did that, and it really does need some modification. But share your concerns with what happened last week in the state legislature.
Yes, and I agree with you, Charlie. Our state constitution is, it was written in 1907, a progressive era, and much of the language that's in there from my read is are items that should be in legislation. They should not actually be in a constitution per se. So the whole idea of doing a rewrite, even a complete rewrite, I would actually support to reevaluate how we actually do business within Oklahoma. The challenge is what happened last week. Actually this session. We have two different versions that I know of anyway, of having a state constitutional convention. One of them was promoted, or is promoted, by State Senator Lisa Standridge, and she has her version. The convention is to be convened, all right, and the delegates to be selected. She does have a formula for selecting delegates. We're going to come back to that. But beyond that, it is wide open. Basically, the convention can do what it deems appropriate. And then it goes to the people for a vote. Presidential elections coming in 28, that's when we would vote on the modifications to our current constitution, or even a whole new one. All this is at the state level. I do not support the idea of touching a federal through a convention, but that's actually a different topic. Now, recently, this last week, the leadership of the House and the Senate, authored a resolution. And it was just made known and visible this last week. On the 23rd, I believe, is when it was introduced. And it was voted on in chamber 2 days later. All right, and it did pass. It was in the House. It did pass in the House. It was a bit of a topic of discussion. And what came up in discussion was the delegate allotment. The leadership's version of the resolution to host the convention, the delegates would be our state legislators, and that's it. It's as simple as that. They would actually make up the delegates. Senator Standridge's version, which was never even heard in committee, it didn't go anywhere. That one, there would be 112 delegates. Most of them, the majority of them, would actually be state legislators, and there would be a fair distribution based on party and based on geographics, east to west of I-35. So there is some attempt to be reasonable that way, to be fair. 14, the executive branch, really the agencies. 6 would come from a judicial, and 16 out of the 112 would be drawn by lots from the general public. Okay, so even that is still very heavily skewed towards the state legislator. But it is a far cry different from the leadership bill, which is all legislators. They would just convene, have the convention, do their work, and they're on their way. Now, I'll give my opinion first, if it's okay on this. The rules that get determined, delegate selection, all of that plays into establishing the foundation of a constitutional convention. That's true federal or state. And it has a huge impact on determining the results of the convention, is what it amounts to. He who sets the rules gets the results they want. The same thing on delegate selection. My opinion is that they should entirely, all the delegates that determine the Constitution should come from the general public. None of them should be our elected officials. None of them should be the government employees. They're the ones being governed by the Constitution. So it is the people that should determine what that structure looks like in our Constitution. So my thought is have the county officers themselves select at least one person from within their county who would actually be a delegate, and potentially more. It seems reasonable to have more based on the population of the counties. All right, so you have that weighted factor in there. But every county has at least one, and it's the county officers who would determine who that is. And 100% of them come from the private sector. It is the governed that should establish the Constitution. Those who govern, they write the laws. They're the lawmakers, and they're the implementers as well. They need to be governed by the people. And the people, that's why the people should write the Constitution. That is my thought on that. I'm sure people will vary on that and appreciate the opinions and thoughts. At the same time, this has already passed the House. It can be modified. It can be modified in the state Senate. So I'm hoping you'll consider what we say, think about it for yourself, get a hold of your own state senator and ask them to consider this before it goes for a final vote. It can be a real game changer in Oklahoma. And keep in mind, I do support a state level constitutional convention.
Unless you have something you want to share.
I just had something amusing side note, and so it might detract from it, but what you mentioned about having the governed, make this decision, it kind of flashbacks me to term limits. Who gets to vote for that? It should be the governed, not the people who want to retain their jobs. But okay, Charlie.
So,
good point. Yeah, good point.
Our Constitution says that every 20 years we have the right to create a committee to come up with a new constitution or major amendments or something to that nature. The only time I've ever known that occurred was when Henry Bellman was governor. Now, just a little information about Henry Bellman. He was the very first Republican governor ever elected in the state of Oklahoma. He was very liberal. He served 4 years and he ran for Congress. I ran for the U.S. Senate, which is one of the half of Congress. And he won, and he served 2 or 3 terms in the Senate and then came back to Oklahoma and ran for governor again. And when he ran for governor, while he was in that seat, it was one of those 20-year times. So his chief of staff was the chairman of the committee rewriting this Constitution. And they had met 3 or 4 times before I actually went to one of those meetings. And the chief of staff was Andrew Tevington. Andrew Tevington was the president of the ACLU for the state of Oklahoma. So what I'm trying to tell you is who the members of a committee to do this, it's very important who they are and what then. And it was a small committee, best I remember, maybe 30 people. Most of them were attorneys, most of them were liberals. And so we went one day, and thank God, Dr. John Eidsmoe, who was a law professor at ORU at that time, was there representing about 40 people. And all the people that were there that day were somehow affiliated with education. I was there to represent the South Logan County Homeschoolers Association. We had a North Logan County and a South, and many of them were Baptist schools and Methodist schools and other schools there. And they had already gone past the part on education, and they had made a rule that they would never, once they had completed something, they were never going to revisit. Well, Dr. Eidsmoe convinced them to vote to revisit it. And all Hades broke out because they knew how conservative Eidsmoe
Charlie's always stirring up trouble wherever he goes.
I was there for the ride. I learned a lot that day. But Eidsmoe is a constitutional attorney, or professor. That's what he taught. He's authored about 15 books. Remarkable man, 100% recall in his memory. He's a retired full bird colonel in the Air Force. A Lutheran minister, radio talk show host, authored many books, JAG in the Air Force. Anyway, he began to get in the discussion, and we saw how liberal they were. The Tulsa people that knew him, they did not want this to happen. And finally, there was a motion made to reconsider, so they voted to go back. And our Constitution guarantees the right to homeschool. Well, they had changed that. And what killed that whole effort is once it got out all over the state of Oklahoma that there was an effort to take away your constitutional right to homeschool. I mean, homeschoolers, they contacted the governor, they contacted their state representatives and senators, and they pulled the plug on it, and the thing never went
What
any
year
farther
was
than
that?
that. I don't know the year, sometime when Bellman was in his second
I
term.
Is that in
remember
the
that.
60s?
It's
Is it the 60s?
no, it would have been
That
late
was before
70s,
my time in Oklahoma.
probably late 70s,
Late 70s?
or something to that nature, maybe early 80s. And but anyway, it could be, how did they come up with those delegates? I don't know. And there weren't very many of them. And so if you get too large of a body, it becomes unruly. I've been on at the state platform committee. I've been on the education part of that several times, and at one time there were 50 people that were on that, and it took forever to get anything done. I remember the first Saturday we were there, it ended at about 1 o'clock in the morning, and the next Saturday we were just supposed to dot the I's and cross the T's, and we went to 5:30 the next morning. And so it can be really contentious. Of course, at that time, we had a lot of the McGovernite Republicans in our party. That's what some of them called themselves. We were in the process of purging a lot of liberals out of the activists out of our party in Oklahoma. And so anyway, it just is really,
Let's start.
Yeah, I would just say, something to think about is, you probably know Oklahoma is famous for having a propensity to have a lot of legislation. The number of bills they want to bring. There's a lot of,
thousands every year.
Yeah. So we have this propensity. Now, my question is this: those that are wanting to do this, the leader again. What's the leadership? What's the vision? What are we talking about? Are we talking about education policy? What are the policies? Where are they going with this? What's the driver? What's the driver behind all this? Because I think that's really important, because we do have a constitution, we do have a bunch of laws. So what is it that makes us want to redefine that? And if there's really something to that, then I think another idea might be like in Madison's Constitution, you start out with a division of like maybe half of it could be elected officials, and half of it could be. I love your idea about the private sector. To balance. He had a House that was supposed to be more of the people, and a Senate that was going to be appointed by the state legislatures originally. So somehow balance that. But it would be dangerous, as you said, to have the current maybe legislators just take over that possibly. I love your idea about the people having say, but I'm so curious, what is the driver? What's the leadership?
This
what
is
are
a typical attorney.
Yeah, next
what are they trying to do?
What is the motivation?
next
right?
Monday we're going to have State Senator Shane Jett on the program, and he will be talking about the Freedom Caucus, some of their goals and agenda, and some of their struggles and things. But I've also asked him to discuss what he thinks the motives are for this effort from leadership. It comes from leadership. When you have a bill that is sponsored by the President Pro Tem and the Speaker of the House, that's a signal to all of them. This is supposed to pass.
It is. Maybe we should have them on the program.
Do you like your committee? Do you like being a chairman of the committee?
Well, we're kind of being presumptuous here. I'm sure their intentions are noble. What we need to do is reach out to the Speaker and the Pro Tem, ask them to be on our podcast and explain themselves. Isn't that the reasonable thing?
I think that's a great idea.
What are you shaking your head no for?
It's a great idea, Bob, and if we weren't in session right now, we could get them. But
Do you think so, Charlie?
oh yeah, so years ago,
Here he goes. We got a
years
story.
ago there was an
I feel a
effort.
story coming on.
There was an effort to destroy Oak Pack by an outside group, and they were bragging about things. And every year, right after the general election, I would always have the president pro tem and the speaker of the House come to Oak Pack and talk about. Well, at least they were the leaders. They weren't always. We weren't always in the majority at that time. But I would have them come and talk about the newly elected people, what they hope to do, and things like that. So I used to could get them there, and so I think we could, particularly the larger number of listeners that we have, the better in here, because that actually increases the influence of a podcast upon the legislature. There's probably not anything in Oklahoma doing what we're doing right now. If there is, I don't know of it.
All right, we're limited on time. Folks, we're going to come back to this topic because it looks like it's a sure thing that it's going to go through. What leadership wants, they get. It's already passed in one chamber. Our opportunity as citizens is going to be in the state senate to have an influence. So we're going to bring this topic up again next week because it'll surely come up for a vote in the state senate within the next few weeks. And please speak about it. Please forward the podcast, discuss it with others. Make your impact, make your voice heard within your own state senator. This is really our big opportunity. Any other closing comments? Because we're right at the window.
I just wanted to point out something that Charlie's mentioned a lot about Logan County being so conservative, the most conservative county in the state. So I just wanted to put a little plug and brag in that Stark Davis is actually a Logan County guy. So
Yes, he is.
Logan
Stark, thank you
County
for being
today.
It's great to be here. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Stark.
Take care, all.